sure.
So once again, guys, we're coming to you from the Athletx Sports Group Studios live in Louisville, Kentucky. All right. Before we get started, Aaron, I got to ask. First of all, how's your basketball pool doing?
Well, obviously around here we're very disappointed right now because in the state of Kentucky we don't have Kentucky, we don't have Louisville. There are some Indiana fans, and none of us even made the tournament this year. So you can tell, like, March Madness is not very madness-like around here, but
it's a different feel.
It's a different feel for sure. We're null and void of quality basketball this year. So,
well, as far as my pool is concerned, I went back home to Michigan for Easter to spend some time with some family this weekend, and if it's any consolation, I used my pool to start my fireplace that was up there. So that tells you how I did on my pool. So who do you got tonight?
I have in the gym I work out at, I have Gonzaga as the winner, but there's like 10 or 15 other people ahead of me that have more points that also have Gonzaga. So I do, as a fan of basketball, because that's when you grow up in the state of Kentucky, you're a fan of basketball naturally. And this is the last go-round before we officially hit baseball season, full-on baseball season.
Yeah.
Because who watches NBA anyway? So, but college basketball, once it ends tonight, then it's all baseball from here.
Full-fledged baseball.
But I do think this is going to be a great game. I mean, these are two electric teams with lots of athleticism. It's going to be a get up and down the court kind of game for sure.
I'm leaning towards Baylor a little bit. I am. I'm leaning towards Baylor. I just something about a team going undefeated. I just don't.
Yeah, the odds.
The odds, right? The odds are against them. And
Indiana, 1976.
1976.
Indiana State, 1979 lost to.
Indiana lost.
Magic Johnson.
Magic Johnson and Michigan State. Kentucky was undefeated going into the tournament. So there's been a few teams that have tried it, but nobody since 1976. So the odds are in Baylor's favor. But we'll see. It should be a good game, and we'll definitely be done here tonight in time to make it home and watch the game. So
now, Horace, since we're from Kentucky, did eventually win the Triple Crown. It took, 30 or 35, 40 years there for a while where that didn't happen. So I'm sticking Gonzaga.
You're going to go Gonzaga?
I think tonight the streak is broken of non-undefeated teams, and it happens tonight.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't argue with you. I mean, they're a good team. You know, it's not like I think this is the matchup everyone wanted to see. They wanted to see Gonzaga, and they wanted to see Baylor. And usually don't turn out that way. Somebody usually loses by the time they get to this point. But all right, enough with the basketball. Let's get on. First thing we're going to do is we're going to recap a couple of teams that had a good weekend. I know it was Easter weekend. A lot of tournaments kind of go to one day or even 2 days, Friday and Saturday. They don't play on Sunday. But surprisingly, a lot of teams still get out there and play. They're itching to play, especially since with COVID. Excuse me, from last year, they don't want to take a chance of
don't want to miss a weekend.
Miss a weekend, yeah. So the first team we're going to recognize is our TBS ranked number 8 10U team, the Oklahoma Fuel. Real quick, they went 4-1 on the week, beat Mojo 5-2 in the finals to bring home the championship over the weekend. Another team we're going to recognize is our TBS number 12 11U team. It's the ZT National Prospects out of California. They went 4-0 in pool play to take the number 2 seed. And then in bracket play, they went 3-0 on Saturday and only gave up 1 run in 3 games.
That's impressive.
And ended up beating the San Diego Show 16-1 in the championship. The ZT Prospects out of California will be here in Kentucky for the TBS Nationals. Awesome. So that'll be a great addition to that event. So congratulations to both of those teams for a great, I don't know if I say weekend or a great couple of days, maybe, is a better way to say it, because they didn't play on Sunday. A lot of schedules are going to be getting kicked off this weekend. Weather's getting nicer, all across the country. I know California is still shut down. They have to travel out to play because they're still kind of shut down. But a lot of the country will be getting kicked off this month to ramp up their schedule.
There were fans at the Angels game I saw last night, so hopefully that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and is it tonight? Grassi, can you look that up and see, is the Texas Rangers home tonight?
Was this the 100%?
The 100% capacity.
That stuck? Nobody overturned that?
No, they did not overturn it. I think that game's tonight, and our producer's going to look that up to let us know. They're expecting 40,000 people, whether it's tonight or tomorrow.
Whatever the day is, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be was the norm, but now it's the abnormal.
Abnormal, right?
So it's going to be weird to see people actually celebrating in the stands, high-fiving. Probably it's going to happen, let's be honest.
Sure.
The Rangers are in the bottom of the ninth right now, getting waxed 6-1 by the Toronto Blue Jays.
But they're at home.
They are at home.
They're at home.
We got an attendance yet?
So
I have an official attendance. I'll see if I can get one by the time we're done.
So there's an update for you. Texas's home opener didn't go as planned. Toronto's up 6-1. But there's 40,000 people expected to be in game. Now they said they had to wear masks, which I don't think people are going to have a problem with if they can go to a baseball game and have a few beers and enjoy the game. And outside, I know they said they're going to keep the dome open at least for the first month or two while these rules are in place. So
before it gets too hot down there too.
Right, yeah. Last thing you want to do is go to an outdoor baseball game in Texas in August. Yes. I think it's a little tough out there. So, well, history. Or I won't say history, but it was a first, full-fledged baseball game. So we'll see. I'm sure everybody is going to be keeping an eye on that and see if it ends up being a super spreader or nothing happens and
becomes the norm again.
And I think everybody's crossing their fingers for it to be the norm again.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's kick off tonight. Last week, Aaron, I was sitting here with Anthony Grassi, and we talked about a topic that, man, has really exploded over the last 7 days on social media, and that's the class, grade, however you want to call it, age rule that is across the board in youth baseball now. And there's a lot of people that are for it. There's a lot of people that are against it. And until there comes some sort of agreement by everybody, this rule right now is in place. It's going to be in place for 2021. But in all my years of baseball, I've never heard as much complaining about this rule as I have this year. Where do you fall in this category? You for it? You against it? Give us your thoughts here.
Yeah, I have a senior in high school and a 14U kid, so I've kind of been through the gamut, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
Coached the older son when he was younger and then passed him off to somebody else and still with that group, the Louisville Sting group we mentioned earlier. It's a mixed emotion thing. I don't think, again, there's no perfect answer, and that's probably why we don't have a universal system at this point. Clearly, I think we would all agree 15U and up, we go class year. I don't think there's any doubt. At that point, when you have recruitable athletes, the last thing a college coach at any level wants to do is come see a kid who is a sophomore pitching to freshman or a junior pitching to freshman and sophomore.
Unless they're on varsity.
Right. So, unless they're playing up, not the older kids playing down. So at the youth ages, man, it's such a catch-22 because like the kids that I have a 14U team. We're made up of 13 players on our full-time, full-season roster. But we have 2 kids that are 2024, so they're currently freshmen. And we have 11 kids that are 2025.
So they're 8th graders.
Correct.
Now, in talking to you before we got the show on, you told me that those kids, they're not really playing down. That's kind of where they've played their whole entire lives.
That's their baseball age, according to the May 1
current and so they're then with that – and with that group, and it's their friends. They go to school with them. And, so I think people understand that. It's the kids that are reclassifying and going and coming back down strictly because of sports. Now, listen, they may say it's because of grades or because of social cues or what have you. But, I mean, if you're playing on a travel baseball team, I don't think your social cues are that inadequate. So, it's strictly because of sports.
Yeah, the reclassification of kids right now is a hot topic for sure. I hear about it a lot, and I have people, usually when it comes up, the typical response, in my opinion, is people shaking their heads. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying it's right or wrong, but it's hard for a lot of people to comprehend because it's perceived somewhat as just to give the kid an athletic advantage.
Right.
Now, that may or may not even be the truth. Like you're saying, it could be learning disability, it could be social cues, it could be physical immaturity, like the kid's smaller or whatever. So you can't lump it all in one basket, obviously.
Well, here's one of the things, talking to a bunch of coaches over the past week, that I learned that I guess I didn't really think about, is it's not only baseball. I talked to one coach, and the kid that's playing for him actually reclassed because of football. So it just happens that, baseball falls under that same category, and he plays baseball too. But that wasn't the main reason. It was he reclassed because of football. So there's more than just meets the eye, I guess, when you talk about people reclassing or doing this, and it's become a greater thing here recently than in the past. So
obviously the scary thing is if we go to straight grade / class, whatever terminology you want to use, but at the older kids, class makes more sense because they know what class year they are. When they're in 3rd grade, most people are like starting to do the math. They don't even know what class year they are. So grade
right.
class, it's the same thing.
Right.
Versus age.
Yeah.
Is if it goes all grade class format, what we're talking about will happen more, even more, because that will be the system at that point, and people will probably try to adjust to grade class.
One coach asked me a question that I thought was a great point, and I didn't think I would ever see a great point to this. But he asked me, he says, Rick, if you go to their local elementary school, we use 12-year-olds, just kind of give you an idea. On our show last week, we used 12-year-olds as our base, which is 6th grade. And he said, Rick, if you go to a 6th grade school and they go and take their 6th grade basketball team and play another 6th grade team, nobody asks about the age. They're just in the 6th grade.
Right, 6th graders. Right.
And that made me think a little bit. I'm like, you know what? That's right. I mean, I get that. You don't really hear anybody saying, oh, well, he's 13 years old in the 6th grade. No, he's in the 6th grade. Right. But now you translate that to the baseball field, and it's a totally different story.
Right, exactly.
He's 13 or he's 13 and a half. And so,
we were talking earlier about this current May 1, let's talk about
that.
What's the history?
Does anybody know
Why
the
does
history?
It stick? What's the significance of May 1? Because it seems rather insignificant or incorrect. Like, it should be forward of that or backward of that, I think you believe, right?
I do, and I've heard rumors of why it's that way. I heard it goes back to the president of Little League, who had a grandson that had a May birth date, and he wanted him to play in the Little League World Series.
Wah, wah, wah. We're talking conspiracy theory now.
Conspiracy, right. Here we go. Let's go with the conspiracy theory.
30-year-old mythical tales. Man.
But, I mean, that's the best story I've heard of why it's May 1st. I mean, why else is it May 1st?
Yeah, you got it.
I mean, think about it. Our season typically runs from the fall, which is September 1st, through
late summer.
August. August usually is kind of a dead month. But the typically new seasons start August 1st.
Labor Day weekend-ish.
Well, nobody plays in August, but they start August 1st. Starts the new season. Unless you are an end-of-the-year season that runs July 29th to August 4th or whatever the case may be. Typically, the new season starts August 1st. Well, in the past, you watched the Little League World Series on TV, and you would always see 13-year-old kids playing in the 12-year-old Little League World Series. And people were like, what is going on? I thought this was a 12-year-old tournament. Right. And so I think one way to fix it is make everything September 1st. Make the date, and it's what you talk about, pushing the date back to September 1st. That way, if you play your end-of-the-year event in July, or even if it rolls over into August, you're still, quote-unquote, 12 years old.
14, 12, whatever you are.
Whatever the age is, because you're not turning until September 1st. And my biggest problem with age to grade, and I talked a little bit about last week, is that gap. When you have the age, you have no greater gap than 364 days. That's the greatest gap that you can have, unless a kid's playing up. Now, we never penalize a kid for playing up, right?
Makes sense.
But if you go by grade or class or whatever, you could potentially have a 500-day gap.
Yeah, a very big gap.
A very big gap. So that's why I'm for youth. I'm more for the age to be September 1st, and let's move it around, and then keep grade class. Grade class, you mentioned 15. I could see it starting at 14.
14, yeah, it's 14, 15.
I could see it start at 14.
It's right there somewhere. At that showcase age, they call it.
Yeah, showcase age. Nobody's showcasing 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds.
Sure.
I know some parents like to think they are. And some parents,
a whole other show.
Some parents buy into the hype that their kids being showcased, but yeah, you're right. That's a whole nother show.
That's a whole other show.
Or another solution is you move it back to January 1st.
Which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but USA Baseball, I believe,
USA Baseball
international age, which is January.
International age is January 1. That way, you don't have to do any math. It's basically on what year you were born.
And 07.
Yeah, and that's the way it was. So, wouldn't it be nice if everybody across the board got on the same page.
It would be.
You know,
it obviously would. Remember when Little League made their age change? They did a phase-in year where it was kind of like, this year it's going to be like this, but we're going to get to here in year 2, I believe. So I think it would take. I don't think it's one of those things where you could just flip a light switch. And there's going to be 2 things. One, when you would need a period of time to do this ish, 1 to 2 years, and most importantly, you need the right people on the bus to talk about this, or in the meeting room per se, to agree, because until those key organizations, for us, Athletx Sports Group, you can think about whoever else that is in our industry, until those people get at the same table, this will never happen, because nobody's going to follow the other guy. Or not to make a change, it would take all those groups getting together on some level.
But there's some things that they talk about. I do it because it's good for the game, right? I do it because it's good for the game. If everybody got on the same page as far as eligible kids, and listen, I'm a proponent for birth dates. I'm a proponent for that, not the class at the younger ages. Class should start at 14. You know, I'm challenging these other organizations out here. Let's do something about this. We can do something about it. We can do something about it. We can change the date. Why it's May 1st, I have no idea. It makes absolutely no sense, and nobody can explain it to me why it's May 1. Let's make it September 1. That way, anybody that walks on the field, no matter what time of the year, they're in their age, and they don't have to worry about it. But I got a feeling there's going to be some egos that get in the way that prevent this from happening, which is unfortunate, because to me, that's telling me they're not doing it for the good of the kids or the good of the game. You know, they're doing it to pump up their chests and their egos. And, you know, I don't understand that. If you guys got some thoughts on this, give us a text, drop us a text at the Ticket Text Hotline, 915-228-2785, or comment on the Facebook page here and let us know what your thoughts are, because, you know, we're just 2 guys sitting in a room here in Louisville, Kentucky, trying to make sense of all of this. And, you know, unless our voices are heard and gets out there, and nothing's going to change. And all that's going to happen is year after year, people are going to complain about it. And so we can't complain if we're not willing to look for a solution or look for a change. And I'm offering you a solution right now. Let's change it to September 1st and keep it a grade out of it, and just do age. Do age until you become 14 years old. You know, I challenge these other organizations to you know, take a look at it at least and see if that makes sense for the game, for the betterment of the game. And I'll be surprised if somebody comes up and says otherwise, that it's not for the betterment of the game. All right, I don't want to beat a dead horse.
Right. Moving on.
Yeah, we'll move on. I just wanted to get a few things off my chest from last week that I think we missed out on. So we'll move on to some of the rules that we didn't get to last Monday because we ran out of time, that we would like to see changed. And the first one that I would like to see changed is that first to third balk move that is legal in some areas, illegal in some in different areas. And Aaron, you're to an age now at 14. You guys will start playing different rule sets. You'll play high school rules. You'll play federation is high school. You'll play pro rules. You'll play college, and it's different every week. You got to check right before you even start playing.
MLB, we follow high school. We follow college, or they don't say any of those, and they'll just say we allow first to third. We don't allow first to third. So it's just
or the one that
confusing.
Or the one that gets me is you find out after you do it.
Right. Oh, well, that's not legal.
Oh, that's not legal, or that's a balk.
Right.
So, you know, that's
one of those head scratchers again.
Head scratchers.
What's the purpose for non-universalness here? Like, what's the
well?
Why is it different at different levels?
And
different in the middle between high school and pro, which I believe is the same. And college in the middle is different. Again, it's a head scratcher.
Well, you hear these college or these high school coaches, oh, I'm getting them ready for college, right? I'm getting ready for college, so they need to play that rule. And my question back to them is, well, if you're in college, you're getting ready for pro, they don't play that rule. So what are we doing? Right. You know, that's a tough one too, and it always causes controversy every time I'm at a tournament. And to be fair, the umpires are in no better situation than the coaches because they're umpiring under a different set of rules every week, and they run together. And I get it. I'm an umpire. I've done it myself. To where I have to sit and think, I'm like, oh my God, what rule set are we playing this week?
What organization are we playing?
What organization?
Right.
And it changes. So that's one. Another big one out there is the DH rule. Not a lot of people have the DH rule at the younger ages, but there's a few. There's a few that offer it. We already have the EH rule in effect for youth in order to get more kids in the game. Now there's some coaches that are pushing hard to get the DH in along with the EH. They're disguising it under as getting more kids in the game, but man, I got to question that if that's really the motive behind it. To me, it's more about just hitting for your weakest hitter in your lineup, whether it's your second baseman or your right fielder. And what are you teaching that kid? You're not teaching that kid how to hit in those situations.
Obviously, in different parts of the country, this may be handled a little differently, but I can speak to the Midwest because I've spent the majority of our time here, and we've traveled to some national tournaments like TBS Nationals in the past. But usually at the younger ages, I know our team, whether we had 10 or 11 on the roster or even 12 when we were younger and you're playing 10 in the field at the youngest ages, roster batting seems prevalent for most of the younger ages, unless you're at maybe TBS Nationals or something that's got a more of a national draw where you hit everybody, you're going to be at a major disadvantage. But I'm talking about weekend tournaments. I still see, even at 14U this year, we've played 2 tournaments, and the majority of the teams we've played have batted roster. So
even at 14?
I think that's a little, to me, that's the age where it starts getting a little weird because it's, and again, it goes back though, every organization is different. Some people don't even allow it at 14. I'm probably slightly more of a proponent of it at 14 and up. Go back to that showcase age that you should go to lineup batting at that point. And then you gotta go, okay, this weekend is it EH or DH or EH plus DH?
Right.
Well, I'm playing in a tournament this weekend that's DH plus EH or DH plus 2 EH. You can bet 9, 10, or 11, and at some point, as a coach, you start to you feel like you're that emoji where your head explodes on the top.
Not only as a coach, but as somebody trying to keep track, like a scorekeeper.
Oh, yeah.
And umpires. Again, I'm going to go back to high school umpires. You have to turn a line up to them. They have to keep track of all your substitutions and everything else.
Notepad in their pocket.
Yeah, and now when you're adding a DH and 2 extra hitters and free substitutions on defense, that's an umpire's nightmare.
It gets convoluted quick. And honestly, half the time the team on the other side's like, whatever.
I get that.
Which is good and bad.
It is.
As long as somebody's not bending the rules, it's probably okay.
It is good and bad, and I get why they do it. And for the most part, excuse me, at the most part, those guys don't care, right? They don't care. But all it takes is one to care, and it creates a absolute massive, what kind of storm, with an umpire, because they're going to say, well, that player's illegal. He batted out of order. And frankly, the umpire's not going to have a clue. And, I
think a lot of it goes back. I think let's make sure we hit on this point that a lot of your umpire groups, like the park that we run a lot of tournaments at, Elizabethtown,
yes.
But we have multiple different brands coming in there, and it's the same umpire crew because they're run by the same UIC.
Yep.
So, each park kind of has its group of umpires that run through there. But if it's, one of ours, like let's say game day this weekend, and then maybe it's a USSSA tournament the next weekend, the rules are going to change, but the umpires are the same.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And sure.
You said that kind of earlier. I just want to make sure that people understand that's the hardest. It's probably the hardest. Where it's the most difficult is on the coaches and the umpires.
Oh, absolutely.
The kids will do whatever, but the coaches have to go, what is this? What are the rules?
Yeah.
The umpires I've seen them stop games and go, what are the rules for this weekend's tournament again?
Oh, yeah.
Is it an EH or DH, or what are we allowed to do here at the plate? Or we're going to come to some of these other ones in a minute. Are we tracking pitches or are we not?
Yeah.
Obviously there's a million more we can get to here.
And again, I guess that goes back to my point, what I talked about earlier. Man, wouldn't it be nice if everybody just got on the same page and ran the same baseball rules? I mean, what are we doing here? Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? So I don't care if you're...
It's really not a competitive advantage.
It's not. It's not.
It's just confusing the audience.
Right.
The parents are confused. The kids are confused. Again, they'll play along with whatever, but mainly the coaches are confused. Yeah,
and who decides on what tournaments they're going to go to is the coaches, right? I mean, they make the ultimate decision on where they're going to go. So to have them, man, it would just be nice if everybody, and I'm talking, Athletx Sports Group, USSSA, Perfect Game, all those guys, get them all on the same page and goes, guys, come on.
9U baseball is 9U baseball.
9U baseball is 9U baseball.
12U baseball is 12U baseball.
We don't need all these special rules to make you stick out and be special.
We're overcomplicating things.
Right. We're overcomplicating it for sure. So, The next one, you kind of alluded to it earlier, is pitching rules. And this is another one that we're all not on the same page on. No matter who's right or who's wrong, but right now I believe you have to do something to protect the kids from coaches and from parents, because it's becoming more and more evident that some coaches and some parents can't protect themselves and their kids. So we as tournament directors have to do something, even if it's just minimal, to do something, and that's where the pitch smart rules come in, or innings for an entire tournament come in.
I've seen outs, I've seen innings, and I've seen pitches. For me personally, again, everything exists out there, so there's no proven right or wrong, but I'm more of a pitch guy, because most of the time, again, there's two sides of this coin.
You mean individual pitches? You say pitch guy, individual pitches.
Yeah, sometimes an inning, a kid can have a really rough inning, and it could be 30, pitches, but the next inning he's 9 pitches, and one inning, those don't equal each other, 30 and 9. Now, the reverse argument to pitch count is every kid's built differently. Some kids mature quicker than others. So we have some kids that, this early in the season, you got this kid that, he might 60, 70. This kid's 50, he's on a 50, because he's just not as physically mature as that other kid we're talking about.
And their winter regiment workouts are different, right? Some kids will ramp up. I won't say ramp up. That's a tough one. But they will start throwing earlier, like January, February.
Some kids playing multiple sports. So you have some kids playing basketball heavily throughout the winter, especially in our part of the country. A lot of kids love basketball.
Sure.
So how much are they really throwing in basketball season? Maybe they have a pitching guy they go see once a week, but we know once a week you're not really using your ramp up.
But some other kids might be. But they might be ready.
Might be, right, exactly.
They might be ready. And I hear it all the time, the drawback to the pitch smart rules is it slows the game down. And you and I talked about this earlier before we came on air. The game's already slow enough.
Oof, yes.
It's already slow enough. And, Major League Baseball is actually putting rules in place to speed things up. Right. And we kind of went backwards with this pitch smart, and it slows it down. And
it's what we call the unintended consequence.
The intended
consequence was protection of kids. Anybody on here that doesn't agree with that, you're in the wrong. You shouldn't be in youth athletics.
Yeah,
you shouldn't. If you don't believe in protecting kids and their arms and their bodies, then this is the wrong place for you. So I think 99.something% of all of us agree. Not that people don't get caught up in the heat of the moment and lose track. But I'm saying if you ask that person under a non-heated situation, we all agree with that for the most part. But that unintended consequence is if it's 2021, and some people let you finish the batter, some don't. Let's assume you don't. I got a kid in the first inning. He walks the first guy. We get a hit. We get out. We're at pitch 20. We haven't even gotten 3 outs. Which I've seen happen a lot. First inning.
Especially younger kids.
2 down, man on first, we'll say, and we're switching pitchers, and the game's already moving at a turtle's pace.
And then I'll take it a step further. You bring that kid in, and he don't get nobody out.
Right.
And he throws 20 pitches. You're already down 5-0 probably.
With 2 arms deep.
2 arms deep.
If you want him to pitch the next day.
2 pitching changes, and now you're looking at a 40-minute first inning. Right. And you're on a 2-hour time limit. So
we're also talking about youth. Let's be clear. I think we're talking about more the youth levels, because once you get to this year's that transitional year, but once you're 15 and up, you're rolling a guy. Like this is hit Johnny's days to Friday, the 3:00 game. Joe's pitching at 7. But youth. At the youth, you don't have enough.
You don't have that.
Bandwidth
12-man rosters, and so you've got to get out what you can out of most of what you got to get the most out of what you have at the youth level. And I think the coaches that I've talked to, if we could find a fine line in that pitch smart rules to keep the game moving, I think that could be a universal rule that sticks. But we just got to figure out what that is.
Right. I think this is, again, personal opinion. The pitch smart rules are just a little tight, in my opinion. Like
I agree. I agree. They're a little tight.
This, but ish 5 pitches, maybe. It's not off by 10, but 20 in one day at the youth level. For the most part, a lot of these kids have little rubber band bodies, and they bounce back a lot quicker than when we get older, as you and I both know. So, but
right. Right, and you know, the old joke is, you know, when you and I were growing up, there was no such thing as pitching rules. I mean, we just went out there and threw and
walked uphill to school both ways.
In the snow.
In the snow.
In the snow. And then you have the legendary story of Nolan Ryan. Is it Nolan Ryan threw 210 pitches in a game?
Yeah, right.
And, I mean, he didn't miss his next start. But it goes back to what you said, everybody's built differently. You know, everybody's built differently.
And I think with technology, our bodies are developing at a different pace than we did. The access to strength and conditioning training, we just didn't have that. I mean, you could lift in your garage or something, but there were no mega facilities with hooking monitors to you and telling you how your body's operating at 10, 11, 12, 14, 15. Like, technology has advanced the human body.
Talk on that here in a little bit. But what's some other rules, Aaron?
The one I remember seeing when we were younger was like the leadoff steal rule. Like, okay, are we allowing stealing at 9? And is it double A or is it major D1, D2? Obviously, there's a difference between a D1 and D2 team at 9U, but do we allow leadoffs? Do we not? Do we allow stealing? Do we not? Obviously, some people do machine and coach.
Yeah.
There's a whole other thing is the machine and coach parts of the pockets of the country are heavy machine.
I mean, travel has kind of went the way that 9 is just full-fledged baseball. That's kind of the way the country's went.
I think definitely in the last several years.
But I will tell you, you bring up a good point that I didn't really think about. You know, I know some kids back in my hometown in Michigan that play in their local rec team. They don't play travel. They play in their local team, their local rec teams. And at 9, it's still machine or coach pitch or, you know, it's totally different.
Connected to the bag, whatever you call it.
Right.
No leadoff.
Right. No leadoffs until the ball crosses the plate. That's exactly what it is.
Well, and frankly, if they let some of the rec leagues still at that age, it would just be a mass chaos because you're probably struggling in some of those leagues to find a pitcher that can actually hold a runner or a catcher that can make a throw to second base.
Well, and I guess that's my point. I get why those rules are in place for those types of events. Because it just the capabilities is definitely not there. You know, they're not. The catchers can't block pitches. You know, they can't throw out runners going to bases or something of that nature. And so, and another one is 8U. The question is, you know, should that be kid pitch or should it be coach pitch? And you know, there's becoming more and more kid pitch events.
I think that's going to be the next trend. I think we're seeing that ourselves.
Yeah, we are.
This year that more parts of the country or the more D1 major level teams are saying, you know what, we're better off. So we did that, but I think there's going to actually be 8U kid pitch divisions more than, you know, I've heard you're from Michigan. I've heard in Michigan that's been the norm, right, for at least several years.
It has been for a couple of years.
Probably Georgia.
But Georgia, it's real big.
Right, but here in Kentucky,
Georgia, the hotbeds for
one 8U team. Our Louisville Sting team is the one team that's playing kid pitch, and you really have to, unless you're going to a national like TBS, which they'll be at, you have to play up, which we did. That's what we did with our team. We would just play 9U kid pitch, and we got better doing that. Yeah,
my son's 26 now, and when he was 8. There was only, I think, 4 kid pitch teams in the state of Michigan that we ended up playing each other. But that's what we did. We played up 9U. And we did okay. I mean, we took our lumps naturally because 9 is just physically bigger and stronger than 8-year-olds. But, yeah, that's another one. But, again, goes back to
getting people together.
Getting people together. Let's get the big wigs in the same room and try to work something out. And make it agreeable for everybody. Any more rules?
I think we covered them all.
Yeah, I mean, if there's some rules out there that you guys like to see us address, or
bunding or the slashing.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah, so there's another one.
We talked about the slashing.
Changes by the weekend.
Oh man, well it shouldn't change. No. That should not be allowed at the youth level. That is dangerous.
Dangerous till you get to the 60-90 field.
Till you get to the 60-90 fields, I agree, 100%. Slashing there's no call for it, and you know. Coaches that teach it. I got into an argument with a coach. I ran a tournament in Michigan years ago called the Michigan Major Elite, and actually got into it with a coach over the whole slashing thing. You know, and he says, well, you need to teach your kids how to do it. And I said, it's not as simple as that when you're 8, 9, 10 years old. Right. You know, you're teaching when a kid bunts come crashing in, and you can tell them to break down and do all, but it's just not going to happen. So it was actually a big ordeal at the tournament, and we had to address it right on site, but
I think I just thought of another one. Let's not spend time
on
it. We move along.
What's another one?
Head first slides into home, things like that.
And that one baffles me because I have played in tournaments. This goes back to what I said earlier. You don't find out about the rule until after you did it.
Like, oh, that happened. Oh, that's in our rules. That's not allowed.
Yeah, that's not allowed. He's out.
He's out. Comes the winning run.
Right. And as a coach, you feel, it's your responsibility to know the rules going into these events. And I remember this happened to me when I was coaching. Kid slid into home, and it gives us the run to go ahead. And after a few minutes, the umpires get together and declare that he's out. And it's like, what are we doing? But, they cite safety and all of that. So,
but point is, all good conversations, if we could get the right people in the room, we could probably come up with something a little more universal and set of rules that could apply across the board around the country.
Yeah, so if you guys have some comments on the rules or see a rule that we should talk about. I know one of the texters from last week talked about the rule where a player hits a home run and he's touched before he gets to home plate, they call him out.
Right.
And that's another one. It's like, come on.
That's silly to me.
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit last week.
Come on.
Well, we're going to go from rules to baseball myths. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Myths and superstitions. And this is a good one to talk about to kind of clear up some of the myths that parents have out there that we're going to talk about. And the biggest one, the first and foremost one that I want to talk about is hands are part of the bat, right? That's a big one you always hear when somebody gets hit and swings and
mom or dad.
It's mom or dad, right? It's like, oh, hands are part of the bat. The kid gets his knuckles crushed and the ball rolls into foul territory and he gets thrown out and then the umpire awards him first base because he got hit by pitch. So, parents, I was taught this rule when I was younger. If you're holding the bat and you let go of it and it falls to the ground, do your hands go with it? And the answer is no. That means, therefore, they're not part of the bat. And every tournament I run, I hear this comment all the time that hands are part of the bat. No, if he gets hit in the hands, it's a hit by pitch. Unless he's swinging, he makes an attempt to swing, then it becomes a dead ball strike. And I'm not going to get into those rules because I think it just might explode some people's heads. They can't wrap their heads around that. But hands are not part of the bat. Another one that is you hear at every tournament, every weekend, is a close play at first base, a bang play at first base. Tie goes to the runner. Tie goes to the runner.
Usually somebody's grandpa.
Yeah, usually. Folks, I got news for you. There's no such thing as tie. The ball either beat him there or he did not. Right. And that's what the rule says. The rule says that the ball has to beat the runner to the bag. So it's pretty clear and cut. There's no in-betweens. There's no gray areas. And there's definitely no ties. So that's a couple of the baseball myths that are out there. Superstitions. Now this is a good one, and because we could probably take up a whole show just with superstitions. Aaron, you played baseball. You've coached for a good number of years, as have I. And what is the biggest superstition that I hear from all baseball players, coaches, including myself, is, man, if things are going good, don't change it.
Don't change it.
Don't change it. Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. And it's different.
You eat the same breakfast. You sit in the same place on the dugout.
You walk through the same gate.
You walk through the same gate.
Park in the same parking spot.
Right. Tell your mom and dad we're going to wait here until that spot opens.
Right.
And you definitely, under no circumstances, ever do you change your uniform. Ever. Now, you don't quite agree with that, do you?
No. If we're talking about teams or players, obviously different scenario. But I've got a friend who's coaching a team here in town, and one of the kids, they're 10U right now, and the kid told me, I was watching my son play high school, that he's like, my coach says we're not wearing a different uniform or hat or socks until we lose a game. Now, I believe they meant we're going to wash them. So that's a whole other superstition. No. This team's pretty good. So
No, you can't wash them.
Yeah, I'm a wash it guy.
You're going to wash the luck right out of it.
Yeah. Well, there's wearing the same uniform and wearing the same smelling uniform. I'm not wearing the same smelling uniform. The
moms love that, right? Their kids wearing the same. Don't wash it, and it could stand on its own after a few hot games. Now, I'd be curious to see the the guy from the White Sox started the season. Did you see that? He started the season 8 for 8. First time in Major League Baseball history since 1900. Grassi, look that up, will you? See,
100 years ago.
I think it was about 100 years ago where somebody started 8 for 8. And I'd be curious, man, you start your Major League Baseball career 8 for 8. Aaron, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not changing anything.
Sleeping in the same sheets,
I'm sleeping,
same underwear.
It don't matter.
Socks. Maybe sleep in the uniform and don't even take it off.
8 for 8 in the big leagues? Yeah. I am doing the same thing every day at the same time. Now,
impressive.
That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is for me. What'd you find, Grassi?
So we've got, first time since 1900 to start a season with 8 consecutive hits.
First time since 1900. Think about all the
120 plus years.
Think about all the great hitters that's been in this game in the last 120 years, and it's the first time anybody's ever started 8 for 8. What was his name? I couldn't even tell you his name. What's his name? Yermin Mercedes. And a rookie. So he's probably not even conscious of what he even did.
Which is probably the most beautiful part of the whole thing.
The whole thing. I agree. He don't even know what he did.
No.
He probably don't realize it. So, Mr. Mercedes, I want to welcome you to the Baseball Hall of Fame because I guarantee you something of yours is in the Hall of Fame now, or will be. So
the bat, most likely.
Most likely the bat,
most
yeah,
sense.
or his cleats or something, or his underwear that he hasn't changed for a few days. So yeah, I mean, so there you go. I mean, it's superstition, and I'd be curious to see if he had any and would not change his luck or anything of that nature. Man, that's crazy.
We've got one of the team I coach, just for example, though, when we've played well on Sundays, we've gone in the all whites. So everybody kind of has, we got this, we got that. We call them our all whites. So there's been a couple years where we've stuck to the Sunday all whites because it was going well. So there's just another superstition. Make sure we hit the same batting cage.
Right.
Let's try to get that same dugout. I mean, there's so many things that kids, coaches, parents. You'll see parents sitting in the exact same seat that they sat in yesterday during pool play if you're at the same field.
Oh yeah. Even the parents get in.
Kids, it's parents
get involved
coaches.
into it too.
Yeah.
For sure, they get involved into it. And I can tell you, when I was coaching, we had 2 or 3 different hats that we wore, and we had one that, like you said, it was all white. We had one that we wore for Sundays only, and I think the first 3 tournaments we played in, we lost in the semifinals, and the parents are like, dump those hats.
Yeah.
Get rid of those hats. Wear the other one. Very next week we wore a different hat, and we won the championship, and that was it for the rest of the season.
Those hats were goners.
Yep, those hats were goners. Another superstition is don't walk on the foul line, or don't whether you're a player or a coach. And this is one I actually followed when I was a coach. When I went out, talk to my pitcher or make a pitching change, man, I never stepped on the foul line, or the fair line. Which is it? Is it a foul line or a fair line?
Foul line.
Why is it a foul line? That's another one of those things. Why isn't it a fair line?
That's a good point.
Or fair pole. It's called the foul pole, but if it hits it, it's fair. So that's I'm confused.
Oh, there's a good one.
Hey, why is it not the fair pole? He hit the fair pole. So that's
another show
one.
again.
That's another one.
I always jumped. I played center field, small lefty, so I had a long way to go. But I got to be honest, I jumped over that line every time. There's just something that mentally stepping on the line.
Now, here's another one. Does it make a difference now that a lot of fields have went to turf?
Turf, yes. Turf chalk lines. Turf non-chalk lines.
Right, non-chalk lines.
Turf chalk lines. They don't make sense because they're turf
right.
foul lines, I guess.
You could walk on them and nobody would ever know the difference.
Yeah. I'm playing in a turf complex this weekend. You've got me thinking I'm going to be watching to see how many kids step over the turf foul line.
Right, or just stand.
Or fair line.
Fair line. Right. I think we should get that changed to fair line. What about
the hotline?
Hotline. What's some other myths out there, or some superstitions?
Wow. Dirt. Well, these are, I don't know about superstition, but dirty ball to start the game or clean ball. A lot of guys.
Oh.
Like a really muddied up ball and scuffed and scratched. Some guys want a fresh pearl.
When I was coaching, man, it would just aggravate me for my pitcher to ask for a new white baseball. Yeah. I never wanted one. When I pitched, I never wanted one, and I would ask my pitchers all the time. It's like, why do you want the new baseball? And
feels good in my hand.
Well, yeah, they'd give me some crazy
pearl,
answer,
man.
right?
Okay.
And I said, yeah, but it's so bright, white, and shiny. Who else can see this? And it's the hitter, right? The hitter loves it when a pitcher throws a brand new white baseball because he can see it. And as an umpire, when I was working behind the plate and I would do my catcher courtesy or the batter, if they got hit, I would walk out to the pitcher and I would grab 2 or 3 baseballs and I would hand them to them, and 1 would be a pearl and 2 would be game-used baseballs. And I guarantee you 99% of the time the pitcher's taking the new white baseball. Never understood it. You know, pitchers out there, don't take the white baseball. Stop it. Take the dirty one. The hitter can't see it.
Help yourself out.
Right, help yourself out. Let's see, what's some other ones? Oh, the backwards hat for the rally.
Rally caps.
Rally caps.
Yeah. Inside out, sideways.
But you know, sometimes that doesn't work, but that doesn't seem to deter them, right? They'll do it again the next time.
At some of these youth tournaments, I've seen stuffed animals in the dugout. I don't know if you've seen some of these. Like,
rally monkeys, like
rally squirrels,
rally squirrels.
Monkeys, rally whatevers, rally Elmos.
You know how many times it needs to work for it to catch on? Once, right? That's all it needs. It just needs to catch on one.
I have a funny story from TBS Nationals. I actually still have this at my house, but we were playing East Cobb, and we were 11U that year, I believe. And we were in it was bracket play at that point, and we played just lights out that day. Beat a really good 5-star team from Georgia. And in the dugout during the rally was a stick that had fallen off. You know, the East Cobb, there's a lot of trees
Yeah.
above the dugouts, and somehow one had fallen down into the dugout. You know, it was about yay long, maybe 18 inches or something, and just, you know, it was a pretty clean stick. And one of the kids had started using that inning, and, you know, tack, use almost like, you know.
Like in the Houston Astros type of way?
Well,
or?
no, not
oh,
that
okay.
way.
All right. I was
More
just...
like Japanese baseball where they're, you know, constant
Gotcha. Okay.
noise. But it became, you know, and then we get a hit, and blah, 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 and that stick ended up staying with us, and we ended up in the championship game playing East Cobb Astros Orange. And that stick stayed with us because we found it on the ground.
Something.
We went on a roll, and after the tournament, this is really corny, but the kids signed it, gave it to me, and I still have the thing.
You still got that stick?
I still have the stick. I swear. It's the, you know, it's just more at this point like a memoir, I guess.
Is it in your office at the house, or is it in your
closet.
office at the office, or is it in your office at the house?
More the office at the house, but it's kind of part of my closet where I kind of keep some of my baseball paraphernalia.
So has Ashley ever come across that and go, why is there a stick in the house, and try to throw it away?
Right.
You gotta let her know what it
Looked
is.
like she saw the signatures on it. So.
Oh. Oh, that's an interesting story. But yeah, right there, right? Prime example, the smallest thing, if people perceive that works, you're not going to tell them any different.
And a lot of times they're impromptu. That one right there is an example. Like, it's just something that organic, it happens, it sticks, and we go with it.
All right, what else? Anything else that we can think of? We got the backwards hats. Oh, same bat, right? You got to use the same bat. If you've got a hit, last time up, we're going to use the same bat.
Yeah, I see kids change bats all the time. It drives me crazy.
Oh, you see it happen?
It's just, it's like they can't even get settled on something. A lot of the kids with the bat back now, they're walking around with these 4-packs going on.
Yeah.
Dad's got them four $449, you know, different branded.
They got a
wood
here, and I got a wood bat.
Yeah, the goods bat here from DeMarini. I got I got my wood bat because I feel cool when I hit in the cage and swing my wood bats. But yeah, I've seen them rotate through them in a game, and that drives me nuts.
I'll tell you a quick story from my son's playing days. I think he was 12 or 11 years old, and he owned 2 bats. He had one that he used in the cage, and he had one he used for the game, right? Well, he was struggling, and so he borrowed one of his friend's bats on the team, and he ended up going 3 for 3 with it. And so he carried his bats to the game every day, every game, never used them because he went 3 for 3 with his other friend's bat, and he swung his friend's bat. That's what he swung the whole rest of the season. Yeah. So on the bright side, at the end of the season, I had to buy him a new bat because that thing was still good to go.
I'm benefiting from this right now because my senior in high school, who plays for a really good Catholic school here at St. Xavier High School in Louisville, won several state championships. He's swinging a blue meta, and I looked at my younger son. I was like, whose bat is he swinging? Because I've never bought him a blue meta, but he's gotten hot, and his – I don't even remember what he had last year, these bats, Slugger Prime or whatever he had, 950
whatever the hot one was.
Whatever the hot bat was last year or maybe the year before. he swings with it on deck, and because the kid that's naturally hitting him before him, and he got hot with that bat, he hands it, or, if that kid strikes out, he hands it to him. If that kid gets a hit, he's swinging that blue bat, and he's stuck with it because it's worked for him. So I'm benefiting because I'm getting that kid's parents nice bat that they
Superstitions. Well, what's some superstitions you guys got out there, folks? Let us hear what you guys got. 913-228-2785, and let us hear what some of your superstitions are. If you've got rally monkeys or bats or hats or lucky underwear or whatever the case may be, let us know about it. Well, let's get on to our last topic here. Again, man, time's flying by here, Aaron. We're running short of time already. But let's get on to the last topic, and that's how baseball as a whole, or even youth baseball, has changed over the last 10 or 15 years. And this is something that when you really sit down and think about it, the amount of things that have changed is really mind-boggling. For example, when my son played, he never played on turf until he was 16 years old. His whole youth career, never played one game on turf. His first game was played at the University of Michigan on turf when he was 16 years old.
What year would that have been, roughly?
Let's see, he's 27, so it's 11 years ago. So that would be 2010? 2010 was the first time he played on turf. Never even crossed my mind, as I was their coach, to play on turf. And now, today, most of these teams, especially the high-level major teams, they won't play in an event unless it's on turf. And are you seeing that trend as well?
Yeah. I mean, again, using your son, my son, he's 18. He would be 18 if he played it in the summer after high school. But I believe the first year he played on turf was about 2012. So obviously that window when turf really started getting popular on the youth fields was kind of that 2010, probably to 2015, and now even more so because every small town USA thinks if they build a turf complex that everybody's going to flood to their city, which isn't always necessarily true.
Well, when they first started,
I love the no rainouts though. Like for example, last weekend we were playing in Elizabethtown, and we would have not played on Sunday. It was a gully washer overnight, and the outfields were wet, but because of the turf infields, we got to play. So that's the beauty of it, I think. Not so much the perfect hop. I think that's
the economic impact, right? That's the economic impact of it, and you want the teams that travel far, and you want them to get their games in. So it's a big deal for those. So that has changed.
That's a great point. We played a team from Chicago, Indiana, and Chicago in the semis and championship. Otherwise, they're there for 2 pool play games. They drove 3.5 to 5.5 hours to come play 2 pool play games and go home because we would have been rained out. Yeah. Because of turf, they got their full tournament in. So.
It allows them to travel with confidence. Right. It allows them to travel with confidence. Well, some of the other things that have changed over the course of time is unwritten baseball rules. The unwritten rules of baseball.
These are fun.
Yeah, these are fun, right? These are fun. So the first one I'm going to talk about is, you don't embarrass the pitcher on a home run.
Define embarrass.
Well,
that's part of it.
There we go. Okay. And I got one for you here. Anthony, you want to cue this video up here? We're going to cue up a video from Nick Castellanos over the weekend, and he hit a home run. And as you can see on the video, he hits it, and he does a little skip to my Lou thing here that a lot of people would perceive as showing up the pitcher. Well, as you're seeing in the video here that's playing right now, the next day, Castellanos comes up to the plate, and guess what happens? Plunk. He gets plunked.
The best part was when he picked the ball up and handed it back to the pitcher.
He picks the ball up and he hands it back to the pitcher, and he goes down to first base. But you can kind of tell that it was brewing. Well, fast forward here, and he's going to score on a wild pitch, and as he scores, the pitcher's covering the plate. He stands over him and he flexes. He flexes.
More football, but you see this in football.
You see it in football. Yeah. But, it was, his way of saying, you hit me and I scored. So who got the last laugh?
Honestly, big deal.
Right. But here we go. I mean, this type of thing would not have happened.
Maybe I should clarify myself. Not big deal. I don't think you should have flexed. Like you scored.
Oh, right.
I'm saying... I want to make sure.
Your job was to score.
Yeah, your job was to score.
Your job was to score.
You scored on a pass ball. You should score on a pass ball. So,
but this stuff wouldn't have happened 15 years ago, 20 years ago. If you showed up the pitcher, you were getting plunked, and that was just it. And your manager told you to go in and sit down and shut up.
Sure. I think, obviously, we've heard this, and this isn't, I'm not interjecting something brand new, but we've all, the Latino swag that's come into the game.
Oh, we're going to get to that in just a second.
Is a lot of it, I mean, how the game's played in different parts of the world, because it's acceptable. It's acceptable.
Well, that brings me
in certain countries.
That brings me to my next unwritten rule, which is if you have a big lead and the bases are loaded and the count's 3-0, you don't swing. And we're going to roll a clip here. Anthony rolled a clip here from Fernando Tatis Jr. last year. That was one of the biggest topics for days on whether he should have swung or he should not have swung.
It's a hot topic.
Hot topic.
Very hot topic.
20 years ago, that's a big no-no. You don't swing up many runs and ahead in the count 3-0 because it's a given that the pitcher is just going to groove one.
Like 7?
Up 7.
It wasn't that.
It was up 7.
My opinion, 7.
But it was late in the game. I think it was 8th inning, maybe 9th. Might even been 9th inning.
Have we not seen MLB teams roll up 10 in an inning? I mean, it happens.
Well, it does happen, but again, it's one of those unwritten rules that you don't do. And I think half of the country was divided on it. Hey, you know what? Get him out.
Players within the league were divided. You had some
sure
young and old guys against it, young and old guys for it, international players for or against. So there was no consistency.
No rhyme or reason to it.
Who was for or against, right?
But and I understood the argument. Tatis was at the time was a young player, no guaranteed contract. He's trying to pad his numbers, pad his stats, make him look better. But the pitcher, he's just trying to get a strike at that point. He probably took a little bit off of it, grooved it right down the pipe, and Tatis just absolutely hammered it. Tatis tattooed it. And he just absolutely hammered it. And so, there's another unwritten rule. 10, 15, years ago, that was a big no-no. It wouldn't have happened.
Right.
It wouldn't have happened because the manager probably would have taken him out of the game. No, actually, he probably would have had him take his medicine and go up there to the next at bat and get plunked.
Right.
Get plunked.
Yeah, the old school way definitely would have been that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a 3-0 swing guy. Now you're talking about situational, up a lot of runs late in the game. In general terms, I'm a 3-0 swing guy.
No.
It's
Hey,
not
listen.
the hitter's fault that he's at 3-0.
Early in the game, and in a close score, man, I used to tell my teams all the time, 3-0 is probably the best pitch you're going to see.
All weekend.
In that situation, then I'm absolutely a swing guy. I don't know if I'm a swing guy up 7 in the 8th inning with the bases loaded 3-0. I don't think I'm a swing guy. I'm old school. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's just who I am. And I'm also not a guy that if I get up 8 or 9 runs, I stop stealing.
Yeah, that's a good one there, the unwritten rules. If we're going to go back to the youth level, come off the MLB level, because run rule doesn't exist in that world. But when we have run rules, there's definitely that weird feeling where you're up, it's like the 3rd inning, and you're up 8-0 or 1, and you haven't reached the run rule. So you're like, if you're doing your job, you're trying to preserve pitching for the next day.
That's the biggest argument.
That's really what it comes down to.
That's the biggest argument.
Most coaches will run, I would say 10. To me, 10 is kind of if we're talking about unwritten rules, I feel like 10.
Well, there you go. You created your own unwritten rule.
I
which
just
is
feel
10.
Like I see 10 is that point where you see people pass balls only or
yeah,
we're not going.
Take the force off, right? I hear that a lot. Hey, we'll move up a base to take the force off, but we won't go any further.
Right. Or you start holding them at 3rd.
Yep, hold them at 3rd, make them,
base hit, we're stopping, we're going to go the one base at a time.
One base at a time.
Carousel, I call it.
Yeah.
So, but, again, if you're playing to win the tournament, I'm not saying I'm this far over, but some people would say, I've heard people say, I'm playing to the run rule. You know what I'm saying? I'm playing to the run rule. And for some people, the run rule is 15 after 3. And
they're trying to save pitching.
Yeah, and they're saving pitching. That's
the biggest thing. They're trying to save pitching. But I've had some events where clearly the other coaches, he's thrown in the towel.
Yeah, kids are defeated.
The kids are defeated. He's thrown in the towel. The score is 12-0. He's thrown in the towel. And you see that one guy that's still stealing bases, flat out stealing bases. And, I don't know if he's trying to score 20 or send a message, but, man, that causes a lot of problems. I've seen it come to fights and blows, too. Another unwritten rule is you never bunt to break up a no-hitter. After the 6th inning or 7th inning, You don't bunt to break up a no-hitter.
Yeah, it's considered taboo, right?
Yeah. How do you feel about that one?
I'm a bunter, so I'm a small guy. I like to bunt. That was a big part of my game. I was a lefty slapper bunter guy.
Yeah.
So anytime you say bunt to me, I get giddy because I love the bunt. I think it's part of the game. This is a more specific question. I think you're asking me is in that situation we'll call it this 8th inning, and a guy's got a no-hitter. Do you bunt? I'm probably no on that. That's
all right. So
the bunt. Like, let's earn it.
So the guy's got a no-hitter. 2 outs in the 9th inning. Aaron Flaker comes up to the plate. Third baseman's playing back. You're not tempted?
The younger me or the older me?
All right, good.
Fair.
Let's go the younger. Younger you's going to bunt it.
Right, absolutely.
Oh, you're getting one in the ear hole. You're getting one in the ear hole.
Did a few times.
Oh, yeah.
Leadoff hitter, lefty, got on base.
Oh.
I was bunting there.
2 outs in the 9th inning.
49 years old now. Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's not worth getting
Older,
ear holed?
Yeah.
It's not worth getting ear
I
holed?
would tell my kids it's not worth it.
Oh, yeah. Boy, a quick story about that is my son got a chance to play in high school, got a chance to play at the Toledo Mud Hens, the Tigers minor league stadium in Toledo, AAA. And they only play 7 innings, and it was the 5th inning, and our pitcher was throwing a no-hitter. And a kid tried to lay down the bunt to lead off the 5th, and he got it in a perfect position between that no man's land, right? Pitcher, third base, shortstop, got the base hit, and the pitcher just absolutely came unglued.
Yeah. What happened to the next kid?
He lost. Well,
they didn't plunk him?
No, he didn't plunk him. The first pitch, base hit. Now it's 1st and 2nd, and he just mentally lost it. He mentally lost it because
derailed him.
Yep, derailed him. And when he come in, and I was coaching at the time, he come in throwing his glove, and he was just swearing up a storm about how, chicken bleep this was, and hit like a man, and I had to set him down and calm him down. And I'm like, look, his job is to get on base, and that's what he did. And your job is to stop him, and you didn't. And I don't agree with it, but it happened.
Here's another one: bunt against the shift.
Well, we talked about that a little bit last week. Anthony and I did with the new rules that baseball's putting in. They're saying now you've got to put 2 people on each side of the field at one of the levels. I don't remember which one it is, but and I've got a real problem with that. Learn how to bunt. Right. If you don't like the shift, then learn how to beat it.
Beat it.
Learn how to beat it. One of the things we were talking about fields earlier, about how things have changed over the course of the 10, 15 years. A quick story about a team that I had in Michigan. And this was 2015, maybe, so 5, 6 years ago. And I had a real good team, and we were used to playing on the nicer fields. We went to Notre Dame, and we played, and Michigan, and Eastern Michigan, and we played on all these nice fields. Well, I had a friend of mine call me up, and he needed a team to enter one of his tournaments locally there in Michigan. And we did it as a favor to him. And we show up to this field, Aaron, and it was not turf. It was a city park field that was that pea gravel stuff on the infield. It wasn't even a grass infield. It was skinned with pea gravel. And the outfield grass hadn't been cut, I bet you, in a month. It was shin high, and my parents were upset, and my players were upset that we came, and we didn't travel that far, maybe it was an hour, but we were still there. And they're like, Coach, we're not staying. We're going to leave. And I said, no, we're absolutely going to play. I said, because I want you guys to see how I played the game. Mm-hmm. This was common field for me. Right. And so I want you guys to see how lucky you are to play on the fields that you have today. And we stayed and played in that event. And I'm not going to lie, there were some balls that were hitting the gaps that from the dugout.
Where is it? I
had no idea where it went. That's how deep the grass was. But my kids walked away from that tournament with a different perspective, I think, and the parents did. And, we kind of stressed to them how lucky they were. Some of the other things that have changed over the course of time is training, how these players train now. The off-season is incredible on what these kids do. What do you guys do in the off-season?
Again, a lot of kids play basketball at the younger age. And once you get to high school, typically they have started, only your few select athletes or multi-sport guys, but in general, our youth teams at our Sting and Vipers organization will have a set hour and a half time that we'll hit indoor, usually starting some people start in December, some wait until after the holidays and start in January, and you kind of do that January, February, March until you can get outside. And if you get lucky in February, March, you get outside. But a lot of kids have, my son, for example, goes to a sports performance training facility down the street. So
let me
non-baseball. You're talking about baseball training.
Let me interrupt you right there. You said he goes to a sports performance training facility. Did you attend one of those when you were younger?
Didn't exist.
Didn't exist, right?
I mean, I guess we could have done those things, but they just didn't exist.
It just didn't exist.
There was no mega training facilities like there are today.
I tried to.
It was a YMCA.
The YMCA.
Nobody don't even know.
What's YMCA? Was that the four guys? Were the four guys in the song, right? That's what it was. But, it goes back to, I try to explain to my kids when I played sports, you went from football season right into basketball season, right into baseball season. And if you played football, you didn't pick up a basketball until football was over. And when basketball season was done, that's when you picked up the baseball bat. And a lot of times, I remember going from basketball to baseball, that basketball ended and the tryouts were like the next day or the day after for the baseball team. So it's not like you had time to get ready, to prep and to, get loose, or you just walked out in the field and you just tried out for baseball. That's not the way it is today. These kids are and they're still multi-sport kids, but they find a way to coexist with all the sports. And they'll do basketball training or play games on Saturday and Sunday. They'll go through a bullpen or hit in a cage. So it has totally changed over the last 10 or 15 years. And do you think that's going to lead to more specialization, though? I mean, do you see the 3-sport athletes still in high school today?
Rarely.
It's rare, isn't it?
Yeah, like on my son's high school baseball team, there's, I want to say, one kid that plays basketball. And football, we have 3 or 4 kids that play football, and then they'll switch to baseball once they start conditioning. But there was only one that played basketball. But 3-sport,
it's almost like a dinosaur now, unless you're at a small school.
Yeah, now there's rural. I hate that word. Rural.
Yeah.
Areas. You see it because the school wouldn't be able to field a team.
Sure.
Three sport stars. So.
But man, the 3-sport athlete is going by the wayside now, and that's a shame. Yeah. That's a shame because you don't know what it is. So, well, Aaron. Man, look at this. It's after 8 o'clock. We went over a little bit. We didn't even finish everything we had to get to talk to today. So we'll just have to save it for another time and move on. Folks, I want to remind everybody that we are taking submissions for our April top 10 plays of the month. You can email those to the lineup at athletx.com. Get those in there. Give us a little background on what the video is about so we know who they are and what exactly happened in the video. And we'll play those at the end of the month. We've got a couple of weeks here to the deadline. And I bet you I probably already got 15, 20 submissions for the month of April already. And so people are really enjoying this. I'm enjoying it, getting to see these videos from all over the country and what these kids done. And did you get a chance to see our #1 play from last month?
Missed it.
It was a routine triple play for a 7U team out of California. Coach pitch. Ground ball to the second baseman. He turns, pivots perfectly. Footwork was absolutely phenomenal to the shortstop. He throws it to first base for the double play. The kid that was on second base at the time, he tried to score from second.
Right, rounds third to go.
And the first baseman throws it home to the catcher, who applies the tag at the plate.
That's impressive.
At 7U. 7U. So. Yeah, so folks, get those plays into us. We're going to be we'll be airing those at the end of the month, our top 10 plays. Again, the email is thelineup@athletx.com. And for now, I want to thank Aaron Flake for taking the time to join us tonight, and for Anthony Grassi being our producer tonight. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys, and we are coming to you live from the Athletx Sports Group studios in Louisville, Kentucky. Have a good night. Enjoy the basketball game, and we will see everybody next Monday night right here at 7 o'clock on the lineup.